So I guess there's no other way to start than just start. And maybe this first recording will be for myself. I'm here alone in my room, having just set up the equipment myself. And, there's a lot to do. I have to do an intro video, I have to start doing content. But I guess the first place to start is to be absolutely honest with myself. Why am I doing this? Why have I decided a podcast? And it's just from so much. So almost 14 years of being involved in Centonomy, 10 years actively running it, and the last over 3 years not being quite in it, but observing it, pitching in, trying to lead, trying to give it direction, watching myself confused. But at the same time, starting to really understand that I have a lot inside. And even when I started Centonomy, it was always about conversations. It was always about observations. My entire life, I have been told I am a good listener, and I am. And I listen and absorb and think and reflect. And sometimes the outcome of those reflections comes so much later. And I think I realized for myself, the journey of Centonomy, the journey of myself in Centonomy is an untold story even to myself. That notwithstanding, it's an untold story to everybody. So often when I get up to speak, I'll tell what needs to be told or what I'm given time for. But there's a lot, and I'm observing in life what people really thirst for is authenticity in the story. And so this podcast was for me to tell the story. And the story, yes, is my experience. The story is, yes, people who have worked with me, my team, my customers, and what has happened to them in this time. But the story is also my observations in this time. It's also an ability for me to reflect, because sometimes I just didn't get the chance to reflect what has happened. A lot of things I have written down privately in my journal. The way I think about even money, the way I think about business it's so different from when I started, because I have the benefit of hindsight and I want to bring it out. There are areas I found have a keen interest in. I'm very interested in the dynamics of women and money and business. I'm also interested in being part of the voice that shifts Africa forward by allowing us Africans to reclaim what is so good about us. So I'm a firm believer of made in Kenya and made in Africa. And I also know that money, business cannot be separate from just life experience. So the way God created us, what is happening in life will show up in money. The way a tree grows is already a money lesson in itself. And I also love nature. I love diving. I love trees. And nature has so much to teach it. So it's an avenue for me to become a teacher to myself. Because I'm telling myself, Sheke, what you have been through in the last 14 years and continue to be through, there's a lot you can learn from it if you just take the time to actually reflect and speak about it to yourself. But I believe it's not just to me that I'll be talking to, it's to you as well. You have a story, and maybe something in my story can relate to your story. And why is this podcast called Making Sense Conversations? Because I think when I started Centonomy, it culminated in a book, my first book called Making Sense. First book because it's not going to be the last. And without knowing it, it became a storybook as well as a book that talks about money in my voice. It's a lot of articles I wrote that were in my voice, and a lot of analogies, a lot of just the way the voice in my head simply works, and I put it out there. And I find when I speak and when I write is when my authenticity comes out. Like I'm here speaking to myself and I'm loving it. I'm just looking at trees outside my bedroom window and I'm loving it. Because sometimes when there are other people or when it's video or when it's a class, it's great and I still like to do it, but you find yourself kind of trying to accommodate what you think people want to hear. So in this part of my journey in my life, I just want to say the truth. And one day when I'm gone from this earth, you will listen to this podcast and be like, I knew Washeke. I knew her voice. And that's what I want to come out. So I don't know where this is going. I don't have an agenda. I'm not really starting out with agenda. But my spirit is telling me that do it. Speak. When I've been reflecting over the last couple of months, I'm like, my asset is my voice. My product is my voice. And I want to use that voice. I am a good listener. I am a reflective person. I have a lot to give. It boils up inside of me. I'm those kind of people who can spend hours just staring at space because things are going on in my head. And I've placed this here, this mic in my bedroom, because I just want to do and record on inspiration. And what do I believe about this? That there's something, I guess I'm taking that bold step to believe that what is inside of me is powerful enough to be put out in the world. And when I take this step, it will flow, and the format it's supposed to take or structure it's supposed to take, opportunity is going to open up. It will happen. It will happen. But I'm doing it because already, even as I record this podcast, just for myself, I can tell I love it. I love it. So this is, to me, giving my voice an avenue. And me believing everything God has put in me. Me believing that everything I've learned. Me believing that everything I continue to learn. Me believing the successes I continue to have, the failures I continue to have, the laughter, the tears are worth something, because we've been living in a life that is so fake. It is so fake. I can put a picture on Instagram and look like my life is on top of the world. But you know what? My voice cannot disguise it. Yeah. So I'm here with my voice because my voice cannot hide it. I can do makeup and look like I'm on top of the world, but there's no makeup for my voice. So you'll hear my voice happy, you'll hear it sad, you'll hear other people who are willing to bring their voice. Once in a while, we will record video, but I'm really after your ears this time. I have spent life being after your eyes. You saw me. I did TV. I did classes. And yes, you heard it, but you had to see me. Now I want the primary medium. Let's hear me or read me. So I'm inviting you to let's take this journey together. Maybe you're a podcast person, maybe you're not. I'm not a podcast person, by the way. As much as I'm starting a podcast, I'm not a podcast person, but I'm going to start. Just the same way I was not an reading articles person, but I started writing articles. Okay, books, I've always been a book person. That I'll admit. But I feel this is the right thing to do. So maybe you're not, but it's not about whether you're a podcast person. Does this message resonate with you? So what is Making Sense about? This Making Sense Conversations podcast. You. Life. Sharing of stories of people who are like you. A lot of stories through money, through business, through our relationships with money. A lot of stories to teach you, to inspire you, but most of all, a lot of stories to make you feel connected. The message with this podcast is for you to remember you are not alone. There's too much going out into the world and thinking you are alone. You're in debt alone. You're struggling with business alone. Your employees are leaving you alone. You're in a marriage and you're struggling with financial issues and you're alone. You're a stay-at-home mom and you don't know how to get back to work and you are alone. You're finding yourself putting on a show for people and spending money putting on a show for people and you're alone. You're heading towards retirement, you're retiring and you're feeling irrelevant. You are alone. You're aging and you're feeling you're alone. You're too young, you're feeling you're alone. You're in mobile, you have a good job, but your mobile credit debt is through the roof and you're alone. You have an idea, you don't know how to take it to the next level, you're alone. You've been running a business for 14 years and it suddenly seems to be collapsing, you are alone. It's something wrong with you. And I want to make you feel you are not alone, but at the same time, ask you to dig deep in those things that are inside of you to get to where you want to go. And that doesn't have to be a number. It could be a design of life. It could be just something that is intrinsically you. That's what this conversation is about. So 6 months from now, I may define it differently. But this really, I wanted to define it from a very authentic place. Making sense is about what is your story. You are not alone, and everybody has a secret. And every guest I'm going to get on this show, I'm going to ask them, what's your secret? Everybody has a secret. No matter how bad your life looks like, there's a secret that has made certain things work in your favor. Imagine if we all shared our secrets, yeah? I'll start with mine. What's my secret? The ability to take a step back, be alone, and to think. Just to think. Not read, study, take a degree, etc., etc., etc. Just think and observe. That is how I started my business. That is how I've solved a lot of problems that I'm going to be sharing. That is how I've noticed when I don't do that, I stumble, I fall, I fail. Yeah. So that's one of my secrets. So join us, subscribe, follow us. You'll be getting this podcast once a week. And please engage with us and tell us what else you'd like to hear, because, I'm not going to hold back. Since I don't have to be in front of a camera, I'm not going to hold back. So if you tell me talk about something, I'll talk about something, because I do love having conversations. I started my business by having conversations. So I do look forward to listening to you, having you listen to me, and having us create a community where people are not alone and are sharing stories. And through those stories and through everyday observations of life, through inspired thought from me, yourself, others, we can start having a different story to tell. So keep listening on Making Sense Conversations.